So what happened, as I said, 13 something years ago, by accident, they discovered that when you use when the plastic surgeons, this guy was in Colombia in South America,
Uh-huh.
and he was a plastic surgeon there, and he, by accident, by using red light before he did the surgery, he noticed that the fat came out easier. Well, that just created so much excitement in the industry that everybody was doing research on it. So they assumed it would liquefy the fat or melt the fat. They didn't know how it worked.
Embark on a journey to defy time with LMAO, Laughing My Age Off podcast. I'm your host, Erica Kelly, and I started this show because, like you, I'm curious about the secrets to staying youthful as the years go by. Join me as we discover the secrets to slowing down the aging process, exploring expert insights, cutting-edge research, and personal experiences that uncover the art of aging gracefully. It's time to laugh, learn, and embrace a life full of vitality together.
Welcome back to the Laugh My Age Off podcast. This is a show where we explore the science and soul of aging gracefully with research and, of course, practical tips. I'm your host, of course, Erica Kelly, and today we're shedding light on literally something that is one of the hottest trends around, and that is red light therapy. Now, this isn't your average spa add-on, right? We're talking like cutting edge, full body rejuvenation, beds used by top athletes, longevity clinics, and everyday people who want to look and feel younger. Hey, from the inside out. And so joining me today, someone who really owns this space, knows it inside and out. This is Dr. Carl Rothschild, the innovative mind behind Trifecta Light Therapy. So Dr. Carl is not just a pioneer in the red light therapy. He's a chiropractor, inventor, and longevity advocate who's bringing medical grade multi-wavelength light therapy to the masses. So we're diving in today how light really affects and impacts our cells, why this therapy may do more than just help your skin glow, and what the future of light-based healing really looks like. So welcome, Dr. Carl.
Wow, that was such a great introduction. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, for sure.
I
So
love talking
let's
about this stuff. I mean, this is, I got to tell you that it was 1972, more or less. I was, I think, a junior or a senior in college at Stony Brook University out in Long Island. And was a good student. I had pretty decent grades and scores and all that stuff. And I felt like I could do a lot of things. And I was introduced to chiropractic, which back in New York, which is where I'm from, it was like voodoo. Might as well been voodoo. Um, but it's tickled my fancy. More than that, my friend and I, who were exploring this, started calling chiropractors all over the country. And I want you to know, to make a phone call in 1972, 73, long distance was not so easy and
Mhm.
very expensive. We didn't have cell phones or computers or internet or email, none of that stuff. But I felt this was important, and I was calling chiropractors, and I never found one that was not thrilled to become a chiropractor. I wanted that. I wanted that in my. I was not focused on how much money I could make, which maybe I should have thought about that. But the truth is that I was focused on helping as many people as I could and being, participating actively in society and making life better for people. I know it sounds corny, but that was really my focus. And yeah, sure enough, I drove all the ways out to California in 1975 to start as a chiropractic student out here in Los Angeles, because at the time that was the best college in the world.
Mhm.
And soon later, 1978, after 4 years of, it was tough, but somewhere in 1978, 79, I started my practice. And I loved it. I mean, my goal and the joy I got from helping people, but as I said, my goal was to help as many people as I possibly could. And
Could I
imagine,
pause you for a second? Like, what specifically? Like, did you personally have an injury growing up, or you knew family
no,
members? Where did that drive come from?
it just came from a desire of I wanted to wake up in the morning and look forward to going to work.
Oh, okay, that's reason enough.
Actually, it's a great question about the people who were absolutely crazy about any profession or whatever, when they have a problem and it gets tremendously resolved with the solution. I didn't have that situation. I didn't really have a spinal issue or none of that. I just wanted a great career. That
Hmm.
was it. And I loved what I was doing. I mean, I got a kick out of all of it. And imagine, I felt there was a strong need in chiropractic for someone like myself. From the educational point of view, I had a very great background in science and the human
Sure.
body. At any rate, so yeah, I loved it. I had a lot of fun with it. And then about 20 years into my practice, which is essentially 26, 27 years ago, I was introduced to light therapy. Of all people, Chadwick Smith was a medical doctor out of USC. He was a professor there as well, an
Mhm.
orthopedic surgeon. And he introduced this thing. I knew him before he was involved with light therapy. He's the one that brought light therapy to us. He was the first one to get FDA clearance. And he gave me this, what looked like a flashlight. And he said, I want you to try this for a couple of months in your practice and see if you see it makes a difference. Now, by this time, I was 20 years into my practice. I knew everything. I
Uh-huh.
felt like I knew everything. And he's going to give me this light and I'm going to shine it on somebody and it's going to make a big difference. And I didn't believe him. But we gave it a month or two. And I'm telling you, within that month or two, we started seeing results that were surprising. So
What
this
year
is like,
was this? Was this in the 80s then, or 90s?
yeah, this would have been 26, maybe before the 2000, before the turn of the century,
Okay.
99 maybe. So yeah, about 26 years ago, give or take. And there was nobody else. I mean, very few people were doing red light therapy back then. Um, so they considered me a pioneer because I really took it to a whole nother level and was starting early on in the whole thing. I wrote the book, which I'm going to talk about later.
Yeah.
And at any rate, it changed my practice. This lady said I had gum disease. Can you help me? And I went, I have no idea. You know what we knew back then? One thing, it couldn't hurt. That was it.
Sure.
They didn't know why it worked. They didn't know how it worked. They didn't know to what extent it would work. They just knew it couldn't hurt, so why not try it?
Hmm.
And guess what? It's still kind of the same philosophy I have now. It couldn't hurt you, no matter what. In the 50 years they've studied this technology, they've never found a recorded side effect. You couldn't hurt somebody if you tried.
Right.
On the other hand, it could help tremendously. And as we go through this, I'm going to startle some of you people with the kind of results that we're hearing and seeing with the uniqueness of a full body exposure. 20 whatever years ago, and I was involved with the first device, which was a class 1. We worked our way up to a class 2, 3, and then eventually 4. And then 13 years ago, it discovered that there was an element of red light that actually can help with fat loss.
Mm.
Now, if those people out there don't know how popular weight loss is in this country, it's
Yeah.
amazing. People are
Yeah.
willing to inject poisons into their body. They're willing to have people yank essential tissue out of their body. They're willing to destroy internally fat cells because fat cells have a bad rep. The name fat cells makes it sound like it's not important. These are essential tissues that are involved with stem cell production, hormone production, other things as well. I'm a chiropractor. I'm not interested in putting anything in the body that doesn't belong there or yanking anything out that does belong there or injuring or damaging anything. Being fat is not the end all or be all, but it doesn't look so good for some people.
Hmm.
They're going to do whatever, they're willing to damage themselves to lose the fat. Now, by the way, as you brought up visceral fat is also affected by the technology I'm going to be talking about. I don't usually emphasize it, but it helps tremendously with visceral fat. So when people start studying their fat, there are different types of technology that will actually use certain type of electrical impulses to actually determine your water, your protein, your muscle, and your fat, and the different
Hmm.
fats in your body. And when we see these tests, we see visceral fat drop also, even though that's more difficult to get to. In fact, I've had doctors who think they know what they're talking about, and they don't, but they say it's not possible that these lights could penetrate that deep to affect visceral fat. So at any rate, there I am, finding out 13 something years ago that red light can actually assist in fat loss. And I knew at that point that I wanted to get much more heavily involved with light therapy, and I started manufacturing. We were involved with lasers and pads and panels and affecting different parts of the body, and we had nice results. We had hundreds of locations all over the country who'd gotten our material and our devices, and they have good results, especially
Mhm.
for fat loss. But about whatever number of years ago when COVID hit, right on the early on, our practitioners were contacting us saying they would like to have a different type of device that would allow them to have less physical contact between the patient and the provider.
Sure.
And we mulled that around for a while and came up with a version of this bed. This is the fifth edition of the bed. But the bed is essentially using lights that will cover the whole body. And the beauty of this is that you don't need staff. So when someone says, well, what does it cost? I said, well, straight out, you're going to save thousands of dollars in staff because you don't need to hire anybody. The patient can get in and out of them themselves. So during COVID, they can get in,
Right.
they walk up to the front desk with a lucite thing in front of them and they go goodbye because they've already paid in advance and they've already scheduled in advance. So there doesn't need to be physical contact between the patient and the provider. So that was the initial thought. It was just going to be a substitute for what we had up to that point. But within a month of us having delivered the first series of beds, we were starting to get feedback that was absolutely surprising and startling. So, for example, Joey, which was one of the first guys, he was being interviewed by his practitioner, and they sent me the interview. And one of the things he said at the end was, "Thank you for giving me my life back." And that's what we're hearing more than ever. And why do you think I got involved as a chiropractor that many years ago? That's what I wanted to help people with. And hear that is so rewarding.
Yeah.
So why was he saying that? Well, he had had Charcot-Marie tooth disease, which meant that he was in 15 years in pain, 15 years he couldn't walk. And after 2 weeks, that's 6 visits, 3 times a week, for 2 weeks, on the end of the sixth visit, he gets interviewed and he's walking, he's on the treadmill, no more pain. And we didn't anticipate that. What we learned since is that when you bathe the whole body at the same time, that's top to bottom, left and right, front and back, inside and out, that's when you're getting these startling kind of results. So
Mhm.
when we get a phone call, and I start some of my lectures, live lectures and whatever, I start off with, well, what would you do? Pretend you're a health practitioner if you're not. If you are, take a listen. What would you do if somebody called you up and said, hey, I need help. I'm having a heart attack once, if not twice a week, and it's been going on for over 12 years. And what they did back then was they implanted a defibrillator into my chest. So every time I died, it would zap me back to life.
Mm.
By the time we met him 12 years down the road, he was dying. Every organ, every gland, every any kind of whatever was going on in his body was failing.
Sure.
And so I asked people, well, what would you do? If you're an acupuncturist, if you're a chiropractor, what would you do? Would you just put needles in there? Would you adjust his neck? Would you change his diet? What would you do? Well, they tried everything, all the drugs. They put a medical device into his chest, but nothing helped. It would just keep him alive, but he was
Until red light therapy.
So Arnett gets in the bed. This was 2 years ago.
Hmm.
One time. Now the practitioner calls me up and says, what should I do? I said, look, just treat him 5 minutes and stay in the room the whole time. And Arnett goes home that night and ever since hasn't had a heart attack since. That's 2 years ago. He's had more treatment, no more heart attack. And everything's come back to life. His erectile dysfunction, gone. His energy, high as a kite. In fact, he even says, what's surprising is that his energy is now through the roof. And he loves it. He loves this technology. And so he'll go into his church and he'll go to the pastor and say, remember me? I had a heart attack in your place. And then the parishioners would come up to him and they'd go, oh my God, you found life again. It's great. And he goes, yep, red light therapy.
That was a great ending to the story, and he is got a lot of energy. So let's talk about the energy part, because I think that is one of the sources of why you get such good results, right? Getting into the mitochondria. So can we talk a little bit about the science behind the bed and what it
Yes.
for instance, your story that you spoke of, and you have so many testimonials. Everybody that's listening on YouTube, I was been watching them actually this morning, and I was like, oh my goodness, these are really great stories because you see average people from knee pain to, like you said, heart conditions, sign me up. I want a bed. But so yeah, let's talk about the mitochondria part of it, the science behind that.
Well, I did want to mention that there are two completely separate mechanisms. About 12, 13 years ago, when they found out that there was an element of light that could help with fat loss, that's a completely separate mechanism. And then for all these years, they've also been working on trying to figure out how does this whole thing with red light therapy work with healing. So if
Uh-huh.
you don't mind, I'm going to start off with the fat loss because it's easier and I can
So
get it out of the way.
okay, so just to be clear, for us red light enthusiasts that are trying to learn, the red light, you said there's two ways that it can help with fat loss and then with the
Everything.
energy anti-aging part specifically. So what makes it different? Is it the light? Is it like frequencies?
Yes.
Okay.
So what happened, as I said, 13 something years ago, by accident, they discovered that when the plastic surgeons, this guy was in Colombia in South America,
Uh-huh.
and he was a plastic surgeon there, and he, by accident, by using red light before he did the surgery, he noticed that the fat came out easier. Well, that just created so much excitement in the industry that everybody was doing research on it. So they assumed it would liquefy the fat or melt the fat. They didn't know how it worked until they did. What they learned was that the permeability of the fat cell wall, which means the outside of the fat cell wall becomes more porous,
Uh-huh.
and it allows the contents, some of the contents, to leak out. And then with our unique protocol, we move that fat away from the fat cells into the lymphatic system and eventually to the liver for use or elimination. That's how simple that fat loss part is.
Right.
So it's a completely separate mechanism that they discovered by accident, and it's only with red light, not with anything else. Now, prior to that, learning about that 13 something years ago, I didn't use red light. I used near infrared and only near infrared because we know near infrared was way more healing than red light was. But there was one company that only emphasized red light for whatever reason. They were wrong, by the way,
Uh-huh.
they thought they were using that for healing, but they're the ones that discovered about the fat loss aspect. So when we created our first series of pads, we integrated red and near infrared, the red for the fat loss and the near infrared for tightening the skin. I mean, when you go on and use this light for fat loss, you're not going to see sagging skin or stretch marks. In fact, if you already have them, they'll typically fade. They'll typically get better. But if you
Uh-huh.
don't have them, you're not going to develop them as long as we can, use red and near infrared. So the pads that we had were integrated with red and near infrared. Then I told you about the bed. So we created this bed. Didn't have any idea that we were going to get these amazing results. And so over the years, they discovered, well, why does the healing aspect work? And you're right, the word mitochondria is very important to the storyline. But it really starts off with something maybe even more important called sunlight. And what they discovered, we know that for hundreds of years, they've told people, go sit out in the sun,
Hmm.
it'll help. They didn't know why, and they didn't know to what extent.
Sure.
But it does help. However, with the lights that we use, we only use four glorious elements of light. We don't have UV light. We don't have blue light, which can screw up the circadian rhythm. We don't have anything like that. We just use red, which has some healing qualities and helps with fat loss, and then near infrared. So I just want to talk about the word infrared. When someone talks about infrared,
Hmm.
infrared saunas, infrared tables, infrared pads, whatever, that's just a fancy way of having heat. It will not make any long-term changes to the mitochondria, for example. It doesn't affect the body that way. It's nice for that hour or two that you're getting heated up, but it's not going to give you the long-term changes.
Okay.
It's near infrared. And back 26 something years ago, we called near infrared cold therapy or cold laser. They weren't literally cold, but it didn't get hot. Heat is the enemy. Heat will dilate blood vessels, bring more fluid to the surface, and block the penetration of the light. That's not what you want.
Okay.
You don't want that. You don't want someone that just played a game of racquetball and get in the bed, for example, because they're flush and it's going to get in the way. You don't want someone that just ran up 5 flights of stairs because the elevator's broken and get in your bed because they rushed. They can't get in the bed. We need to have them wait. We need them to be calm
Hmm.
so that there's no extra fluid on the outside surface of their body.
Sure.
So, um, how does it work? So, it's elements of sunlight. We know that near infrared is the main thing. And what it's found is that it stimulates this thing called the mitochondria, but it does it a roundabout way. So let me explain. But first, I want to tell you what the mitochondria does. The mitochondria is the powerhouse of your body.
Hmm.
It's the reason why you breathe oxygen and eat food. And it creates this molecule, which is called ATP, which is the energy currency of the body.
Hmm.
If you have the right amount of ATP in your body, then you can function much better. And if you did get sick or did have a problem, you would heal normally and effectively.
Yeah.
People who have delayed healing, people who have illnesses and disease and eventually could lead to death, they have less than perfect functioning ATP and less than perfect functioning mitochondria. And what they found was that these certain wavelengths that we're using in our bed of sunlight, imagine we're taking the sunlight, we're magnifying it many, many times and driving it deep into the person's body. And to that end, they're going to see ATP production rise to normal, not more than it needs, but to normal,
So how far does it penetrate into the skin?
pretty deep. It's hard to measure because they're looking at how deep the light is penetrating, and I'm looking at how effective it is in affecting deep tissue. So, for
Okay.
example, visceral fat's a great example. This guy comes up to me thinking he knows everything. He said, "There's no way the lights can affect the visceral fat. It's too
Right.
deep." Well, then explain to me why we see such great results with visceral fat. And it is because not just if you're just looking at light per se, they're thinking it's only skin deep. It's way deeper than that.
Yeah.
So I hesitate to say how deep the light affects it. I'm telling you that when you're covering the whole body from
Yeah, I
all,
think you're right. The bed, I mean, I know you're right. I'm just saying like my background in it when I was looking for like I have a face mask, right? I have a red light therapy. And from the limited amount of education I have on red light therapy, it's how close you can have it and how far it can penetrate, right? For the skin. That's about as far as my knowledge goes with red light therapy. So that's why it was natural for me to ask that question. But with a bed, I can see that having that whole, surround sound effect, if you will, whereas just having one little tool, you're not impacting the entire body. So
I
that
haven't
makes
heard of any tissues that are not being impacted by this full body exposure. But let me just finish up with the mitochondrial
sure.
story. I think people need to know that there's one more element that I haven't yet gotten to, and that is what they found in the walls of the mitochondria is this very unique enzyme that is a chromophore. What's a chromophore? It's sensitive to sunlight. We have, just like trees and grass are sensitive to sunlight and would die without it, guess what? We would as well.
Sure.
If you never get sunlight, that ain't good. It will lead to eventually problems for you. And so sunlight is important, but even more, well, it's important, period. And on top of that, adding red light therapy with a full body bed enhances everything and it makes you, we call it the life, it's going to extend your life, not the length of your life, but the quality of your life. So, that's what I've been studying. So anyhow, and the walls of the mitochondria is this thing called cytochrome C oxidase, which is this chromophore, which is sensitive to sunlight, certain elements of sunlight. And when that gets stimulated, that's what stimulates the mitochondria to come back to life. That's
Mhm.
what generates the ATP production to come back to life. But it's much more than that. Chiropractors and natural healers in general believe in removing the interference so the body's innate intelligence can do its thing.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do is we're going to bring the ATP up to normal. We're going to remove the interference that's getting in the way, and then the body knows what it needs to do. And so it's not just, there are some indirect findings like nitric oxide, which has to do with blood circulation, increases. Like mental issues and emotional issues, it would be hard for someone to say, well, it must be because of ATP production, but it is. So we get people that are talking about being depressed, and I mean seriously depressed, and using the bed for 2 weeks, and after that, feeling so much better. That
Mhm.
doesn't mean they don't need to continue. In my mind, The easier part is getting better, and the harder part is staying that way.
Yeah.
And so, as a chiropractor, we always talk about maintenance. Someone will say, "Is it permanent?" And I say, "Yeah, of course it's permanent. If we put you in a freezer and you guarantee us never getting older at all, and we freeze your skin and your body, and on top of that, you promise us not to do the stupid things that you did in the first place to get you in my
Well,
office, then it's
well,
permanent."
it's just like working out. Like, let's just take it down to like terms that people can understand. Like, if you stop working out, you're going to reduce those benefits. I mean, it sounds like it's the same thing here. So, um, we talked about the fat loss, right? And now we talked about the mitochondria. How long does one have to sit in a bed? I'm just curious.
12 minutes. A dose is 12 minutes.
Oh, 12 minutes. Okay.
A full dose is 12 minutes. Actually, most everything happens probably within 7 or 8 minutes, and we lock that in with a 12-minute dose.
Okay.
Some people need more than one dose a day. If they're really in terrible shape, we might do somebody twice a day.
How often
Uh,
do you do it?
I do it 3 times a week
Okay, for 12 minutes.
for 12 minutes. So
Okay.
I work out. My eating habits, my habits in general drive some people crazy because they used to call me no vices. I never smoked. I don't drink alcohol. I don't eat fried food. I don't eat the things I know that are going to do me in.
Yeah.
And I do try to eat. My main meal is protein, however I get that, and fruits and vegetables. That's pretty much what I eat. I do have dessert from time to time, but it's not sugary, and it's not, no, I don't deal with any sugar substitutes for the most part. I do sometimes have gum that has sugar, but I don't, drink things that have sugar substitutes in.
Sure.
Try not to allow the food industry to do us. I don't know who does us in more, the unnecessary drugs or the food industry. You
Yeah.
know how many food items in the United States can't be sold in other countries?
Oh,
Just
sure. I
how much
know.
crap that we do to the thing.
I know.
I don't know how they get away with it doing it in this
Well,
country. And
hopefully soon it's gonna
we're
get,
hoping that RFK Jr. is going to have an impact, but I don't know.
yeah. Okay, so what does it take to get a bed? And like, what's the price point on one of those beds? And, or, how do you go to market with these? I'm assuming wellness centers. I mean, if you're
So
lucky
this
enough
is
to
a
get one, I'd love to
high-end
get
medical
one.
grade. It's a high-end medical grade device.
Yeah.
There are devices out there that are $200,000. Ours is closer to about 60 to $70,000. It has to
Okay.
do. I mean, we include everything, but you don't need everything if you're getting it for your home. So it could be less expensive than that. But bottom line is that it's the highest medical grade device possible. So we're not talking about subtle results. We're not talking about, well, maybe it'll work. I mean, I haven't heard of anybody not experiencing after 6 visits. So I tell everybody, look, at step one is to go to a local facility near you. So you go to the website, which is right here, trifectalight.com.
Sure.
Word trifecta has to do with the triple effect of skin, fat, and healing. So it can help the skin beautifully, helps with fat loss, and then it helps with healing just about any part of your body. You go to trifectalight.com, go to the Contact Us page. On the left side of that page is going to be find a location
Okay.
Now, we can't list all the locations because of privacy reasons. So when you put your
You have any in
location,
Florida? Fort Myers, Florida? That's where I'm at.
I don't know, for some reason, Florida has more beds per capita than anywhere else in the
Oh, is
country.
there a lot of competition? I would think, I don't know, because it's so warm here year round that I don't know. I guess I would think there wouldn't be, but you're saying there's a lot.
People are very into healing, I guess, and looking better and whatever.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
We basically call the bed the fountain of youth. I've done lectures, and one of the topics, usually it's find out the truth about red light therapy,
yeah.
because there's a lot of crap out there that people don't know. They're buying junk, and then when it doesn't work so great, it taints the entire industry because they go, I know red light therapy, it doesn't do anything. Well, you're using junk, but if you use a high grade medical device, that's a whole nother world. So we have about 10% of our buyers are buying it for their home. And these are people that recognize a couple of things. One, how expensive it is to be sick. It's
Oh, sure.
unbelievably expensive. You people don't realize until you've gotten sick. Well, try staying a week in a hospital. It'll drive you crazy when you find out what that bill is going to cost. And the drugs that are associated with that, how expensive that is. It's very expensive to be sick. And if you can limit that or avoid that, that's a good thing to do. So what would you be willing to pay to not get sick? Never mind the actual cost that's obvious. What about the cost of fact that you can't live your life?
Oh yeah, preventative medicine is I'm all over that. What's the lifespan on a bed? Do we know yet? For like if a bulb breaks, like is
Oh, the
it kind of like a
lights.
tanning bed where like if a bulb breaks, you just order another light
These are not bulbs. These are high-end LED
panels?
that I have not heard of any of them ever going out.
Okay.
So they're slated to last 5 to 10 years, but I would imagine they probably will last longer than that.
Okay.
Frame itself, it doesn't look like it's going to, we built it sturdy.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I would think that the lifespan is long enough that when it when and if it would break down, that it would be time to get a new one.
Yeah.
We're probably
Um,
looking at 10 or 15 years down the road. We
like
only have one bed, and
oh, there
that's
is just one bed. Okay. So
and
it has everything.
the reason why we only have one bed is because I didn't want to develop something that's inferior and then put our name to it. We wanted to put our name to the best and
No,
finest.
that makes sense. I just want the best too. I mean, why mess with a lower
Here's what
grade?
you're looking for in a bed. Now, but let me finish with the website and then we'll get to what you should be looking for in a
Sure.
bed. Number one, on the left side, find an office closest to you. On the right side, if you're interested in purchasing, there are two kinds of people that are going to want to buy. One, home use, and it's about $1,400 a month to lease, or buy it as a business. And as a business, it's a huge magnet. It will drive a lot of people to the facility. As a business, the people that you already have in your facility are going to want to sign up for this. Typically, it takes a couple of weeks or so to get the bed. By the time the facility announces that a bed is coming, they'll have dozens and dozens of people lined up, signed up to want to get in the bed before it ever arrives.
Mm-hmm.
Study done over the 50 years they've studied this technology. There's never been a recorded side effect. So you couldn't hurt anybody if you tried. So the demand of, what a person who would get a bed like this for business, they don't have to have a healing license. They don't have to be a healing professional or practitioner,
Okay.
but they do need to know about the body. So, massage therapists, chiropractors, anybody in the healing industry, um, estheticians. So the skin's going to look phenomenal. I mean, I don't care if they have psoriasis, eczema. We had this one lady, she had 16 very serious problems. I never seen anything like this before. So she had
Skin issues.
forms of psoriasis.
Mm.
She had kidney problems, liver problems, thyroid problems, cardiovascular problems. It just goes on and on. I'm going to send you these videos. Even though some of these videos are on the YouTube channel, between you and me, those are watered down. There's some things that we can't say. Like Arnett's video
Oh, because of the claims.
is not on the website or on the YouTube channel because it's too potent. It's too powerful. But I'm going to
Okay.
send you some of these videos that take you to a whole nother level of kind of successes that we're seeing that are unbelievable. Like Brandon, who had multiple sclerosis, and it halted the progression of the multiple sclerosis. It doesn't reverse it because the damage that's done is done. So
Mm-hmm.
if you have something like that, get into bed quicker, as quick as you can, because we can halt the progression and stop a lot of the symptoms that
So do
go with
they have more studies out there? Because like you're saying, you can't post some of the stuff because maybe the claims are too good,
there's an
for
infinite number of studies. So what I want you to do is to go to Google Scholar. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Google Scholar.
mm,
It's scholar.google.com.
okay.
So it looks just like Google, but it's much better. And put in the phrase red light therapy. Press enter, and you're going to see over 3 million entries. 3 million
Mm.
entries of double-blind studies, articles, research papers, all kinds of stuff talking about red light therapy. And then put in the limiting, filter, which is lupus or I don't know, so lung issue, whatever it is, put it in there, and you'll see how many studies they've done for the different ailments that are out there. They've been done.
Yeah.
Hundreds and thousands of studies and articles and reviews and all kinds of stuff. And so that begs the question, why isn't it everywhere? Let me tell you this lady had third-degree burns. She was a mess.
Mm.
Guaranteed by the wound center to have 6 months of pain, 6 months of drugs, and permanent scarring at the end. And by the end of the second week, the pain was gone. By the end of the third week, it was gone. Why isn't this bed in every wound center? Because
Yeah. Why?
healing is not the focus. It's
Well,
money is
there's a
the focus.
bigger answer there. I think a lot of us know, right?
It's
There's
about
just
making money.
money.
When you
Yep.
go to a doctor and you say, Doc, look, you can make $30,000 going in that direction, or you can make
Yeah, it's called
$2,000.
sick care.
Which way are you going to go?
Sick care. We
We,
call it
we
sick care, not
offer
preventative
them,
care.
we put them in a weird position where they want to make the money. And who wouldn't? So if you can make 30,000 and go the surgical route, the drug route, and all that sort of stuff, or not, that Chadwick Smith that brought the technology to the United States, an orthopedic surgeon, assumed that his fellow orthopedic surgeons would follow along with him. Not one. Not one followed along. They want to do the surgery. They didn't want to not do the surgery. So he was surprised by that. But I helped, and others did as well, to really explode this in the natural healing world.
Yeah.
Natural healers are going to love this stuff because it's safe. Let me talk to you about contraindications for a second. What a contraindication means, who should not get in the bed. So you can get in the bed with electrical components like pacemaker, defibrillator. You can get in the bed with metal. It doesn't accumulate in the metal like maybe a ultrasound would, or an electrical stem or something like that. So you can get in there with any kind of component in your body. The only person that we're suggesting people not treat in this bed are pregnant women,
Okay.
because it would not hurt the fetus or the mother. It would help the fetus or the mother. But if that baby comes out anything other than perfect, that's one of the most litigious communities on the planet, are parents of less than perfect kids. And they're going to want to sue somebody. And I just tell
Sure.
them, let's not be in that neighborhood
Yeah.
until after the mother delivers. And if she had a C-section, get her in the bed right away, and she will recover so much faster from that C-section. It would blow her mind how much better she'll feel quicker. The scarring will be minimal. So
Okay.
why isn't it in every wound center? Why isn't it in every OR? Why isn't it in hospitals? Hospitals look at this as a revenue killer.
Yeah.
The amount of hospital stays and drugs and surgeries would drop so significantly. They're not interested.
Yeah.
Stuff,
So this is your mission. You've been in it, you are a pioneer in this. And
Look, I started many years ago with the notion and idea that I was going to get people to take less drugs. And we failed miserably. I mean, the drug industry is so potent and so wonderful in their ability to market that there's advertising, not that this person should get this drug. They're advertising to educate the person that they should tell their doctor, who I guess didn't go to school to learn this stuff, that this is the drug he should be prescribing, not the stuff he's usually just prescribing. So
yeah.
they're promoting this, and there's so much more drug use than ever before. So my profession failed miserably on getting people to take less drugs. They're taking more than ever.
Right.
Now, I'm in California, so it's not typical of the whole country, but California's a little crazy when it comes to well-being and health. And it became a mecca for chiropractors, by the way, in the late 70s, early 80s, because it was wonderful. I mean, I think there was a time when 20 to 25% of all chiropractors in the world were in California.
Really?
And so then the insurance company said, oh, we're not going to have this anymore. So they limited the kind of
Licenses.
compensation so dramatically that you pay more to get your nails done than you would pay than a chiropractor would get compensated.
You don't practice. Okay, so do you have a place for the beds, or you just have one for yourself and you're just out here
We
trying
have
to spread the
hundreds of
message?
locations all over the country. So when you go to the website, on the left side of the Contact Us page, it says find a location closest to you.
Okay.
On the right side is the idea that you might want to buy one.
Okay.
I educate. That's what I do.
Yeah.
But I'm also a manufacturer, and we sell these beds.
Yeah.
But we can customize the treatment so an 80-pounder doesn't get the same dose as a 400-pounder.
Oh, so
But we
there's
can
settings on
also,
the bed. On the bed, so there's based on height
oh
and
yeah,
weight,
of course.
age.
Not just an on-off switch. We can also pulse the waves, so we can set the frequencies. And as we learn about healing frequencies and rife frequencies, we can set the frequencies so different frequencies will resonate with different tissues and conditions. So we can set the frequencies, we can set the power, both of the red separately from the near infrared. We can set the power differently from the top canopy, from the lower bed. So we have a lot of customization of the bed, so an individual is going to get what's right for them.
And so how does the onboarding for a client work then? Do you take them through, let's say I were to buy one, right? And do you give them like a walkthrough of how those settings would
So if
work?
somebody buys the bed, we include 32 things with the purchase. And that includes basic training, advanced training, and we actually assign a coach to teach them about how to build the business, how much should you charge, the whole bunch of, it's different, uniquely different than training per se. But
Sure.
then we include all the other items that are needed, including I'm a little bit of a nut, so I work at this constantly to make sure that people get the maximum benefits. We
Yeah.
call it business in a box. We guarantee that you're going to be successful.
Awesome. Well, we'll have everything in the show notes. I appreciate you coming on to our show today because I'm really interested in getting some red light therapy with the bed. Um, so if there are any other questions, you can
You could
certainly
do me a
email.
favor
Yeah,
and you have my email address. Send me your address. I'd like
yeah,
to send you a copy of my book, and then
sure.
I'll also find the location that's closest to you. Now, let me tell you, I don't know if you're the best candidate getting the bed, and I'll tell you why. When someone's doing well, I don't know if they're going to see a difference. If they're in great shape, I don't know if they'll see a difference. What we're looking for, and the people that have the most amazing results are people who are a
We have
mess.
issues.
The more messies and have issues, the more dramatic the change is.
I'm looking for more energy. I'm over 40, so I've been dealing with some like hormonal issues. So, I don't know if you've had experience with that, but that's
Of course.
definitely one that I've been testing some things out on my own. So I totally get it. Like if I had arthritis or, what I mean, really bad ailments, but I'm all about, I started this podcast because I'm learning and trying to spread the message too and preventative. Like I'm trying to slow down the aging process. So if I could be doing this, Like you said, it'll stop anything from progressing. I like that. I'm totally signed up for that. So I
Yeah, you
appreciate
might
that.
be a great candidate for it. So when you send the address, I'll find the closest location for you.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Carl.
By the way, also on the Contact Us page, if any of you have any questions, just go there and ask the question in there, and that will be forwarded to me. And this is what I do all day long. I don't see patients anymore, and I'm responding to all kinds of correspondence, but also I'm doing a lot with helping people to build their business. I have quite a large crew that helps me with this. So we have people in charge of the training and the coaching
Awesome.
and all kinds of things. We also include the marketing. So this is why I can feel confident that people are going to be very successful with this type of technology.
Okay, thank you so much.
And now for a joke. Why don't eggs tell jokes? Because they'd crack each other up. That's it for now. We'll see you next time. Bye.